Hello everyone and welcome to the Duelist Advanced Release Roundup, where we cover all the new cards coming out from the TCG's latest core set, plus any side sets we may have gotten. This is part 2, where we'll cover the second half of the list. If you're looking for anything from Adagnister to Nekroz, you can find that video at the top right. For everything else, get ready, because it's time to talk about Part 14, Nouvelles. In an age where we're getting a deck based around Mystical Space Typhoon, the novelty of having a deck based around Hungry Burger is kinda losing its luster a bit, so it's good that the theme's game plan is actually pretty cool. Unfortunately, the way it achieves this is by making a few disparate conditions line up for our line cooks, but this set of releases seeks to smooth over some of the theme's rougher edges, including getting rid of Hungry Burger? Chef des Nouvelles is a level 3 Light Fiend Pendulum monster with 100 attack, 1850 defense, and a scale of 0. While it's a pendulum spell, during your main phase, if this card was activated this turn, you can add a non-pendulum Nouvelles card from your deck to your hand. And if any number of monsters are special summoned to your opponent's field except during the damage step, you can special summon this card. As a monster, if this card on the field is distributed and added to the extra deck face up, you can place this card in your pendulum zone. Once per turn, as a quick effect, you can target an effect monster on the field and increase its level by up to 3. Also, once per turn, if your opponent special summons any number of monsters except during the damage step, you can banish a recipe ritual spell card from your hand, deck, or graveyard to apply that card's activation effect that ritual summons a monster, but you can't activate either of the last two effects on the same chain. I am losing my mind over how good of a consistency piece this card is. Like, it's a Rhoda on activation for anything except Poissonnier, though it does come with a scale that allows us to pendulum summon it and this card, along with any non-rituals that you decide to run. Additionally, the targeting effect triggers most of our ritual monster evolutions, and if you need the extra ritual summoning help, it can copy any effect that you have anywhere. The only thing causing a real problem here is that, as a Nouvelles pendulum monster, it's muscling in on Poissonnier and Patissier's women-loving women cooking rivalry. Granted, it's not really a great card to summon off of Culinary Confrontation, but it is an option. I don't suppose we'll have an aspiring Patissier to go along with our new cook in the future? Angry Burger is a level 6 Dark Warrior ritual monster with 2800 attack and 1850 defense that's always treated as Hungry Burger. You can ritual summon this card with any recipe card, and monsters your opponent controls that can attack must attack this card. You can reveal this card in your hand to add a Nouvelles monster from your deck to your hand, and if you do, shuffle this card into the deck. And as a quick effect, you can attribute an attack position monster on either field, and if you do, special summon a Hungry Burger with 2000 attack from your hand or deck. Okay, so thankfully that last line means we haven't totally ousted the original Hungry Burger, just mostly. Because this card is always treated as Hungry Burger, even during deck building, this is a valid summon off of Bagrill's last effect, but you will have to play original Hungry Burger if you want Angry Burger to use its last effect. But Bagrill does basically the same thing, and summoning an Angry Burger gives you a body with way more attack. And its own effect, too. The compulsory attack means you have another way to trigger the ritual evolutions of your other Nouvelles. And notably, if you draw it, it's not a brick. Like the Nekroz of old, you can use it from the hand to replace itself with a more useful monster, while putting it back in the deck to use later, which original Hungry Burger just can't do. So, I mean, look, I'm just saying, it might be time to look at the rest of the menu and consider your options. Nouvelles Recipe Book Recette des Nouvelles is a continuous spell card that, while you control a Nouvelles monster card, changes all face-up monsters your opponent controls to attack position. Each time any number of monsters are attributed by a ritual monster's effect, your opponent pays 850 life points. Also, once per turn, if you special summon any number of ritual monsters except during the damage step, you can target one of them to add a recipe or Nouvelles card from your deck to your hand, except a continuous spell card, and if you do, increase that monster's level by 1. So this is less of a consistency piece and more of a nice extender. Keep in mind, because that first effect checks to see if you control a Nouvelles monster card, it also activates if you have your Pendulum monster in the Pendulum zone. The free burn is very funny, though I say this because it trips me up every once in a while. It's not when a monster is tributed for the ritual summon of a Nouvelles, it's when a Nouvelles tributes a monster. But the last effect is the big draw here, not only providing you with the search to make up for the tribute, but also giving you a free evolution by targeting one of your rituals. It's unreal! Cook to this book specifications, and you'll be getting win conditions just like Ma used to make. Number 15, Orcust. One of the old greats of the game, Orcust used to be the gateway to many combos some would consider to be unnatural. While their heyday is behind them, they have a great infrastructure that's always ready to rear its ugly head when the right cards come their way, and it doesn't get any more targeted than actual legacy support. But would it kill them to give us a little extra story here? Galatea I, the Orcust Automaton, is a Link 1 Dark Machine monster with 0 attack, requiring an Orcust or World Legacy monster as material, and you can only Link summon copies of this card once per turn. It also can't be used as material for an Xyz summon, a sentence that's just unhinged enough to people who know the basic rules of the game, but know nothing of Orcusts. You can send a card from your hand to the graveyard to add a World Legacy monster or a copy of Orchestrated Babel from your deck or graveyard to your hand. And if this card is in your grave, you can banish one other Orcust card from your graveyard to special summon this card, which is, for lack of a better term, bonkers. Link 1s are some of the most terrifying monsters the game has to offer because even if the effect is only moderately good, it's easily accessible and nowhere is this more exemplified than here. I mean, it's the Link that searches the field spell. There's a whole genre of these monsters. Not only does any Orcust monster go into this, anything from the overarching World Legacy theme does too. Now granted, half of those monsters suck. Most World Legacies are hulking brutes that you play for their own purposes, not as quick little engine monsters you can convert into further advantage, and what you can search doesn't fare much better. But on the Orcust half, the main deck monsters all have effects in the graveyard, so this gives you a way to immediately vent them into there just by using your normal summon. That is, if you have to. And this goes double for using the discard to search out the deck's field spell, which allows your Orcust Link monsters and Yarded Orcusts to activate their effects at quick speed, which has been a huge contributor to the theme's power. And while you can't use it as Xyz material itself, it's great Link material, able to convert any on-theme card in your graveyard into a way to summon them, and with some tricky plays, you can revive this during your opponent's turn if Babel is active. Then link it off during your turn, so you can bring it back again with its own effect during your turn. It is a huge contributor to the theme, so I have no idea why people are going on about how there's no I in team. It's right there, and her name is Galatea. Give her some goddamn respect. Enlil Girsu, the Orcust Mech Knight, is a Link 4 Dark Machine monster with 2600 attack, requiring 2 or more monsters, including an Orcust Link monster, as material. You can target one of your banished Orcust or World Legacy cards and add it to your hand, then you can shuffle one card from your hand into the deck and take control of a face-up monster your opponent controls. And during your main phase, if this card is in the grave because it was sent there from the extra monster zone this turn, you can banish this card to send one card on the field to the grave. This is pretty goofy. Like, we're talking about recycling our banished monsters, which happen pretty frequently since that's how most of our monsters activate their effects, and then you can trade in the advantage you get to steal a monster with no strings attached? Like, there's no time limit, there's no negation, you just get to take it. And remember, you can do that whenever you want while Babel is up. Strangely enough, it's the second effect that has a tight leash on it. It only works when going from the extra monster zone to the graveyard, not anywhere else, and it only activates during your main phase. So even if Babel is active, you can't use it during your opponent's turn. But hey, it's removal, and that's pretty cool. In fact, I believe it's supposed to be reminiscent of Ding Girsu's removal. This is a far sight better than the current Link 4 payoff of the deck, or Custrian, and I expect it'll be popping up every so often whenever the Orcust faithful have need of it. Now, could you please put that helmet back on? Your skin is practically irradiated from all your contact with outer gods here, and I'm trying to get some sleep over here! Part 16. Punk. The party may take a break every once in a while, but it never ends. Deck build pack archetypes are kind of hit or miss, but I can't think of a single time where Punk has been out and out bad. They've had their own standalone deck, they've made for strong engines and other themes, and comes with some unique and powerful interactions all their own. I'd argue it's some of the best designed Yu-Gi-Oh! I've ever seen. But best designed doesn't always lead to long-term success. Punk has since fallen to the wayside, but will these new cards do anything to revitalize their diminishing image? No Punk Rising Scale is a level 8 Water Sea Serpent monster with 2400 attack and defense that lets you banish one other Punk monster from your hand or grave to special summon this card from your hand. If this card is special summoned, you can pay 600 life points to add to your hand or special summon a Punk monster from your deck or graveyard except a level 8 monster. And when a monster your opponent controls with 2500 or more attack activates its effect, as a quick effect, you can change it to face down defense position. 2500 is an interesting threshold because nothing else in the theme really keys into that number. Best as I can tell, the only reason that number is printed on that effect is because it's the next increment of 100 over this card's original attack. So they want you to have an out to monster that can run this over, thus incentivizing your opponent to use their battle phase before activating their effect? I don't know, it seems kind of underwhelming, but I like to treat it as a little bonus. An appetizer, if you will, before the main course. The big draw for this card, in my opinion, is that for the cost of another P.U.N.K, preferably from the graveyard, you can pull whichever one you want out of your deck, or even recycle them from your graveyard if you've run out of copies otherwise. It's annoying that it skips out on summoning level 8 targets considering the next card we'll be talking about, but it does get any of the base level 3s that can, in turn, trade more life points for card advantage while giving you access to Amazing Dragon. And if you really are in the market for an accompanying level 8, you can use Rising Scale to grab a Deer Note, then find a way to put it into the graveyard from the field, which will trigger its effect, getting you a level 8. Overall, this is a nifty card to add to your sequences, giving you a little extra wiggle room at any point during your combo to play through interaction. And it also proves true one of the most important pieces of fashion tech. Monocles are cool. P.U.N.K Jam Fever is a rank 8 light psychic Xyz monster with 2800 attack and 600 defense, requiring 2 level 8 monsters as material. Once per turn, you can also Xyz summon this card by using a P.U.N.K Fusion or Synchro monster you control as material. While on the field, you can pay 600 life points, then detach a material from this card to draw a card. And when another monster's effect is activated and you have a level 3 psychic monster in your graveyard as a quick effect, you can detach a material from this card to negate the activation, and if you do, destroy that monster. A lot to unpack with this one. It is initially very funny to think that you would ever use Rising Carp as Xyz material for this when you could just tribute it off for 2 other P.U.N.Ks to get your combos going, but remember that you can only do that if Carp was fusion summoned. This mode means you now have utility in reviving Carp from your graveyard, letting you turn that fish into a psychic monstrosity. But cheating that Xyz into play has another implication. Because both modes on it detach a material, and the alt summoning condition only gives it a single one, you have removed a lot of this card's utility. You either have to hold up the material to negate a monster, thus not gaining any additional gas, or you cash in the material early for more combo pieces, but now it's just a big vanilla. Now, from a design metric, that's not necessarily a bad thing. Good game design is all about presenting your audience with interesting choices, so this tension makes for a really cool piece of skill expression. And honestly, with the amount of card draw found elsewhere in the archetype, I honestly expect you're not really going to use the draw effect unless things get really desperate. This card adds a lot of functionality, but not so much as to revolutionize the game plan of the theme. Now, can someone please go to the store and get some cowbell? These artists, they have a fever! Part 17, Primite. You know, every so often I hear people lament the continued existence of normal monsters in this game, but if we got rid of them, we wouldn't have an excuse to make themes like this! Primite has found its way in damn near every deck I can think of. Turns out normal monsters have a few gems lying around that can be helpful so long as you can pull them out whenever you need them. But now, they're consolidating their effects on the game with something a little more purple? Let's take a look. Primite Dragon Nether Berzelius is a level 8 Earth Dragon fusion monster with 1600 attack and 0 defense, requiring a Primite monster and 1 or more normal monsters as material. It gains 1000 attack for each normal monster used for its fusion summon, and you negate the activated effects of monsters your opponent controls, whose levels, ranks, or link ratings are less than or equal to the number of normal monsters on your field and in your grave. And if this card is sent from the field to the grave, you can special summon a normal monster from your deck in defense position. This is an interesting predicament to be in, at least in the context of the card we'll be talking about next, but we'll wait on that in just a moment. From the viewpoint of using a general fusion effect, this has some pretty sweet synergy. You send as many normal monsters as you can to fuel this card's attack, which in turn fills your grave to increase the number of cards you can negate with its passive. This is extremely potent against link monsters, as you only need to have a few normals in rotation to negate most of the useful ones, and only a few more past that to take out the whole mechanic. It's also good for hitting engine main deck monsters, because those tend to be low level so they can be deployed easier. But you're gonna have a hard time dealing with any boss monsters, especially if you're only playing Primites as a splash in other decks who aren't really dedicating that much space to the vanilla part of their strategy. I've got a feeling this is going to be relegated to being a piece of material for other summons that just so happen to get you another normal monster as a float, instead of acting as a card that strikes fear into the hearts of anything with effect text. Also, is it just me, or is Nether way more slimmed down than Imperial? Cause I won't stand for it. Give us back our chunky Primite dragons, please. Primite Fusion is a normal spell card that fusion summons a dragon fusion monster from your extra deck by shuffling its materials from your field, graveyard, and or banishment into the deck, including a normal monster. You can also banish this card from your grave to add a level 5 or higher Primite monster from your deck or graveyard to your hand, which can either set you up with Imperial or return Nether back to the extra deck. This is the card that makes the central tension with that fusion so interesting. This is clearly the way they want you to summon Nether, and is probably the best way to source a whole pile of normal monsters to make the attack point soar, but the more you commit to shuffling back into your deck, the less will be around to make use of the floodgate effect. Which makes me feel like this is going to, once again, be another Primite card that's splashed into other strategies that make them more viable. I mean, think of all the legacy support themes that are going to be salivating over using this, right? All manner of Blue Eyes and Red Eyes and Gaia fusions can all use this after they dump their cards into the graveyard. To say nothing of more generic options like First of the Dragons or First of the Dragon Lords to give you some more heinous options. Once again, the inclusion of normal monsters has given the devs carte blanche to do whatever they want with the support cards, and I promise you we are on the cusp of something wrong here, and something very powerful. The allure of the Primites was strong, but we dug too deep, too greedily. How long until we inevitably find ourselves at the behest of Ultimate Dragon of Pride and Soul Turbo? Part 18, Regenesis. I still have no idea what these cards are going for. Like, they care about the number 25, okay, but, like, I don't know. Otherwise, they're just big, ambiguous space shapes. Archetypes of concepts? Let's just take a look at what the new stuff can do. Regenesis Cycle is a normal spell card that, if you control a monster with 2500 original attack or defense, targets a card your opponent controls, or you can target 2 if you control Regenesis Lord, and banish those cards. And if this card is in your graveyard, except the turn it was sent there, you can banish it to special summon a monster with 2500 attack or defense from your hand. An oddly straightforward card. Its removal, as long as you meet the prerequisites, rewards you for controlling your boss monster specifically, and gets your monsters out of the hand to make your others easier to field, since most of them require you to already have a monster on board to special summon from hand. And that Lord bonus is something else, considering that when you special summon that one, you can set any on-theme spell or trap card, so that threatens double removal when it hits board, so keep that in mind. Though ironically, Archfiend, the one Regenesis that doesn't need a monster on board to summon itself, pairs best with this, as you can grab Cycle from the deck on summon, or from the banishment if you've already used it to facilitate a summon, forming some kind of loopy thing. It's cylindrical. A doolally? Yeah, I can't wrap my head around it. Regenesis Commands is a normal trap card that applies these effects to all cards your opponent controls in the same column as your Regenesis monsters. Face-up cards have their effects negated, face-down monsters can't change their battle positions, and face-down spell and trap cards can't be activated until the end of the next turn. Alright, we're back to having to worry about column placement, folks. Hope you worked out your Mech Knight muscles, cause you're going to need them. Though unlike Mech Knights, who had a penchant for changing columns as it fit them, enabling their similar Floodgate-style column effects, the Regenesis make a habit of leaving the field at random times, though their self-recycling nature means they can reappear later in a column of your choosing. So it's not exactly a nimble piece of interaction, but if you flood the field with enough Regenesis, then it won't even matter. So be hitting everything with a little taste of that thou shalt not. And in this case, the thou shalt not is, do anything. Part 19, Scrap. Fair warning, this has nothing to do with Scraps, the Earth attribute synchro-oriented deck that has been a fan favorite for years. This is a Bandit Keith card from the manga, and a bunch of his cards showed up in this set. But much like how Scrap Recycler isn't part of the theme, this is also a card sneaking into the roster, so let's just take a look at this real quick and get it over with. Scrap Garage is a normal trap card that you can activate if any number of face-up machine monsters you control are destroyed by battle or card effect. You target up to 3 Dark Machine monsters in your grave and special summon them, but their attack and defense becomes 0. And you can banish this card from your grave, then target a machine monster you control and destroy it. So, yeah, You could get back a bunch of Orcust with this if they're somehow still in your grave, and there are some effects you can trigger by destroying your own machines, but like, outside of enabling Motor Shell, why would you even bother? Scrap Kong, obliterate their cards, please. Part 20, Sky Striker. Wow, that animation left a lot to be desired, huh? It's a real shame because the manga had such rave reviews. It's sad to see they weren't able to maintain that level of quality. But regardless, that still means more cards for us. The question is, after being absolutely saturated with cards for all these years, can these new additions stand out? Sky Striker Ace Zero is a Link 2 light machine monster with 2000 attack, requiring 2 Sky Striker Ace monsters as material, and you can only special summon copies of this card once per turn, and it can't be used as Link material. If this card is special summoned, you can add a Sky Striker spell card from your deck or graveyard to your hand, and as a quick effect, you can tribute this card to special summon a Sky Striker Ace Ray and a Sky Striker Ace Rose from your deck and or graveyard. Then, you can destroy one card on the field. Well, being the best of both Kagari and Shizuku is hard to complain about. Instant Sky Striker spell access means more times you can resolve engage, and that's a ridiculous situation to be in. The quick removal is nice, especially because it refunds your materials, but I'd actually prefer to only summon one of them. Ray might be able to quick tag to get her out of the main monster zone, but that still leaves Rose in the main monster zone, shutting off your spell activations. Rose even operates better in the graveyard anyway. But with all the new material sinks we've got access to, I suppose it's not that much of a detriment, so thankfully, it doesn't walk out of here with 0 upsides. Sky Striker Special Maneuver Lemniscate is a quick play spell card that targets an equal number of Sky Striker Ace monsters and Sky Striker Ace spell cards in your grave and shuffles them into the deck. Then, for every 3 shuffled cards, you can return up to 1 card on the field to the hand. If any number of Sky Striker monsters are special summoned to your field while this card is in your graveyard, except during the damage step, you can banish this card too immediately after this effect resolves, Link summon a Sky Striker Ace Link monster. This is probably meant to pair with the aftermath of a 0 activation that summons Ray and Rose, since we have plenty of Link 2 monsters to go into off that. As for the first effect, I kinda dig it. Recycling and removal have always been a good pair in this game, and while it's a bit clunky, it does help support a playstyle where you're not afraid to blow through a bunch of your Link 1s because you can just put them back into rotation later, which means more power that you can leverage. Unfortunately, while my conscious mind is aware that Lemniscate is a real term with actual meaning, I've played too much Somnium Files to not think of Lemniscate, and now I have to know if a set would be on this deck. You bet! Part 21, Super Quant. Easily one of Yu-Gi-Oh's coolest decks has made its return once again. Last time, we saw the heroic 4th Ranger appear to shore up the team, but now it's time for the Evil Ranger to make their appearance. And much like how they operate in the show, they invariably end up being a huge asset to the team in one way or another. Let's check them out. Super Quantal Fairy Zatan is a level 1 dark zombie monster with 0 attack and defense. If you control a Super Quant monster, accept a copy of this card, and this card is in your hand, you can special summon this card. Then, you can make this card's level the same as one Super Quant monster that you control. You can also tribute this card and send a Super Quant card from your deck to the graveyard, except a dark monster, to special summon a Super Quant monster from your deck, except a copy of this card. So it's either free Xyz material that pairs up with any on-theme monster to make a Super Quantal Mech Beast, or can summon any Super Quant from your deck while setting up your graveyard. Heck, if you don't need Zatan as material, you can do both in one turn. This is a stupendous addition to the theme. Not that I don't appreciate Alphan for all their work, but you can't deny that getting to actually choose the Super Quant you summon and pitch isn't a huge weight off your shoulders. That being said, this card is not a fairy. We are dealing with a zombie here, do not get it confused. Despite being a small, whimsical creature, it is not associated with the Despia theater troupe. Well, like, can you imagine? I mean, it's not going to be the craziest connection to lore that people are drawing off of this wave of support. Super Quantum Black Layer is a level 7 dark zombie monster with 2400 attack and defense, and when your opponent activates a monster effect, as a quick effect, you can discard one other card, and if you do, special summon this card from your hand. If this card is special summoned, you can special summon a Super Quantal Mech Beast Xyz monster from your extra deck using this card you control as material, which is treated as an Xyz summon, and if you do, attach one Super Quant monster from your graveyard to it. If this card is sent to the graveyard, you can add a Super Quant spell card from your deck to the graveyard. Whoa, that's gnarly. And now, granted, this works best when you have a graveyard full of layers already, because then you'll be able to make the most out of your mech beasts. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Because this triggers on monster effect activations, you could potentially utilize this card turn 0. You pitch another layer to summon Black Layer, triggering the pitched layer's effect. Then, you quick Xyz it into a mech beast that matches the layer that you pitched. And there you go, its quick effect is now unlocked. And then, when you detach Black Layer or get it into the graveyard however you can, any of the theme support spells are now at your disposal. This is a pretty fantastic card to help get you into the game, even when you normally wouldn't be able to. But that's not where the conversation about Black Layer is centered, because we're dealing with a level 7 monster with 2400 attack and defense that ostensibly punishes your opponent for activating monster effects, and it enables Xyz summons. So it's starting to seem a lot like Kashtira Fenrir, don't you think? Even the silhouettes have a particular vibe about them. So does this mean that Super Quant is the timeline that Visas was shunted off to? No! For that to happen, we'd need some representations of the other planet's tribes, and if you can find me a small orb-like fairy that could represent the Vanadium, you'd be showing me Alfan, so I'm going to end this section really quickly before I'm proven wrong. Layer 19, Preventing the Invasion, the Pitch Black Super Quantum. It's a quick play spell card that activates one of these effects, but you can only use each effect of this card once per turn. You can either target an attack position monster on the field and change it to defense position, set a Super Quant trap card from your deck that can be activated this turn, or, if you control a Super Quant monster, special summon a Super Quant monster from your deck in defense position with a different original attribute from the monsters that you control, all of which are very fine effects. As a quick play spell card, the position change is pretty relevant, and while the theme doesn't have many trap cards, having access to Magna Formation is pretty sweet. But if you're able to manage it, getting a free Super Quant is going to be fantastic. I mean, we just finished talking about how game-changing Zatan is. How are we supposed to pass that up? Honestly, my favorite thing is that they really went for naming this in the same way that they would a manga or TV episode, which is a really great way for me to clumsily plug Dragon Ball NXT, a live play tabletop RPG that I do the intro announcer voice for and all the editing. It's really cool. You should go. Part 22, Tistina. TCG exclusives are hit or miss at the best of times. On the good end, you'll get Mitsurugi, Cosmos, or Burning Abyss. On the other end, you get unfinished messes like Tistina. I don't think I've ever seen a deck as universally hated as this one. Not even Warrock's got it that bad. Heck, even they got a wave of support that helped to shut up the haters a little bit, but Tistina's got nothing. Suffice it to say, the OCG has a big task trying to make anything out of them, and I think they might have actually pulled it off. Let's check it out. Miasma Dragon Tistina is a level 10 Dark Aqua monster with 2000 attack and 0 defense, and if it's normal or special summoned, you can add a Tistina monster from your deck to your hand other than a copy of this card. Also, for the rest of the turn, light Tistina monsters you control gain 1000 attack. If it's sent to the grave while there's a card in the field zone, you can special summon this card. Also, you can't special summon monsters from your hand or grave for the rest of the turn, except Tistina monsters. This is a game changer, let me assure you. Tistina's had the ability to set up some legitimately good recursion since their first wave of support. Just land a light Tistina on the board and you can bring Sentinel and Hound back over and over again every turn. The problem was that it was difficult to set this up consistently thanks to needing a handful of specific cards. And by today's standards, even only needing 2 specific cards for a combo is pushing it. But believe it or not, Miasma truly is the final piece of the puzzle. Because this exists, Tistina, Fallen, and Terraforming are all 1-card starters now. But that's a pretty bold claim considering the theme's lack of credibility, so let me walk you through it. We'll start with Fallen in hand for this example, as this lets us play around anti-spell fragrance if we have to, while giving us extra material to work with later. Discard Fallen to place Tistina from your deck, then use its effect to send Miasma from deck to grave. It'll trigger in grave since there's a field spell in play, so it special summons itself, activating its effect on summon to grab Sentinel, which will normal summon. Use Sentinel's effect to pop itself and grab Demigod from the deck. We can now special summon Demigod from the hand and grab any Tistina back row. This is where we have 2 options. If we have another Tistina in hand that we can normal summon, or better still if we're going second, we'll grab Breath for both an extra normal summon and search, at the cost of flipping down a monster on the field. But since we're going first in this example, we'll get play of the Tistina. Now, because there's a light Tistina on the board, we can summon Sentinel out of the graveyard. That is 4 summons, so the most prudent thing you can do at this point is overlay Demigod and Miasma into Varudras to to insulate ourselves from Nibiru. Finally, we'll activate Play of the Tistina to bring back the Fallen that we discarded at the start of all this, and from there, we have a bevy of options for what to make next. We can link away the Sentinel and Fallen into an appropriate link too, but if we have Return of the Tistina in hand, we can make any rank 3 or rank 1 monster. Regardless of your stance on Tistina, it's hard to deny that this is a dramatic improvement, but while Miasma has done wonders for Tistina's potential for combos, it sadly doesn't do much to solve the biggest issue with the deck, which is how unwieldy Crystal God Tistina is thanks to its lack of built-in summon effect, which is a shame. Tistina may be too disjointed for its own good, but the recurring effect of Karma Cannoning your opponent's entire board is extremely powerful, so for now, we'll have to save it for when we're moving in to finish our opponent off, something that Miasma's 1000 attack buff to all of our light Tistinas is very useful for. And Xyz Tistina is sure to help with wiping out our opponent, especially since it sweeps away all of our opponent's set cards. Overall, does this make Tistina a viable deck? Not really, but contrary to Miasma's name, it certainly helps make our playlines a lot clearer. Part 23. Utopic. Looks like the hero video isn't the only massive undertaking I've done that won't let sleeping dogs lie. Arguably, Duelist Advance's Utopia set and Utopia's alone. They're getting a whopping 8 pieces of legacy support, and they're kind of the pack monster. They're taking their extension game to the next level. Honestly, at this point, it'll be hard to find a hand that doesn't get you access to full combo with these. Zuba Baba Knight is a level 3 Earth Warrior monster with 1600 attack and 900 defense. If this card is normal or special summoned, you can activate one of these effects. Either add a Zubaba monster from your deck to your hand, except a copy of this card, and this card's level becomes that added monster's level. Or, destroy a level 4 or lower defense position monster your opponent controls. And if this card is detached from an Xyz monster to activate that monster's effect, you can add a Gagaga monster from your deck to your hand. So that last effect is going to be a trend with our main deck monsters moving forward, with one searching another, searching another, searching another. It's nutty. As for the primary effect, well, the fact that this gets you a Zubaba monster is unreal because it gets you Zubaba Bancho Gagaga Coat, which will not only turn Zubaba Knight into a level 4 monster, but will be the right type of monster for Zuba Gaga to jump out of your hand. Like, you can keep the removal effect in mind in case you need it. We even have a card that helps set that up. But we all know that real Utopic power is stored in the coat. Gagaga Gonbare Knight is a level 4 light warrior monster with 0 attack and 1800 defense, and you can reveal a Gagaga monster in your extra deck to special summon this card from your hand. Then you can apply one of these effects. Either special summon a Gagaga monster from your hand, or change the battle position of a monster on the field. And if this card is detached from an Xyz monster to activate that monster's effect, you can add one Go-Go-Go monster from your deck to your hand. This one is far less explosive, though can be summoned with 0 investment. And if you can't summon from your hand, hey, you can shift a battle position to make Zuba Baba Knight more useful, or to shift a monster of your own. Considering the lack of restrictions on this card, I'm going to assume that this is an auto-include in flip decks as a way to get those monsters active way sooner than you'd think. So no matter what you plan on doing with it, you better pick up your copies before this is Gagaga gone. Bare. Go-Go-Go Goblindberg is a level 4 Earth Warrior monster with 1400 attack and 0 defense, and when this card is normal summoned, you can special summon a non-warrior Go-Go-Go monster from your hand, deck, or graveyard, then if this card is in attack position, change it to defense position. Also, for the rest of this turn, you can't special summon from the extra deck, except Xyz monsters, and if this card is detached from an Xyz monster to activate that monster's effect, you can add a Dododo monster from your deck to your hand. Ah dang, even when given the chance to change the text in a way that doesn't cause timing to be missed, it sticks to his guns, but I guess I respect the dedication to the bit. It may seem strange to restrict you to non-warrior Go-Go-Go summons, since the theme is primarily made of rock monsters, but is likely here to keep you from summoning out Utopic Onomatopoeia, which is always treated as each of the 4 core Onomot types, including Go-Go-Go. Guess they wanted to make this sequence easy, but not that easy. Still, even without that, this still grabs you Dododo Dwarf Go-Go-Go gloves, and that's good enough for me. Well, okay, I guess some proper landing gear would be nice too. Probably not a good idea to drop a Go-Go-Go Golem from this high up. Dodo Warrior is a level 6 Earth Warrior monster with 2300 attack and 900 defense, and you can send a Dodo monster from your deck to the graveyard to special summon this card from your hand, and its level becomes 4. Also, its attack becomes 1800. Also, you can't special summon from the extra deck for the rest of the turn, except Xyz monsters. And if this card is detached from an Xyz monster to activate that monster's effect, you can add a Zubaba monster from your deck to your hand. Arguably, this is better at setting up Dodo Dwarf Go Gloves, cause it'll be right where you need it for its own revival. And hey, you just put a level 4 monster on board. Time to make some Xyz! And then it gets you a Zubaba, and you get to start the whole cycle all over again. A fantastic way to keep pressure turn after turn. I'm telling you, this Dodo Dwarf is no Dodo Dolt. Number F0, Utopic Future Zexal is an Xyz monster with 0 attack and defense, requiring 2 Xyz monsters with the same rank as material, and is always treated as having an original rank of 1. It gains attack and defense equal to the combined ranks of all Xyz monsters you control and in your opponent's grave times 500, and your opponent's monsters cannot target monsters for attacks except this one. Also, your opponent can't target other cards on the field with card effects. Once per turn, when your opponent activates a card or effect on the field as a quick effect, you can detach a material from this card to take control of one monster your opponent controls. Also, for the rest of this turn, this card can't be destroyed by battle or card effects. Honestly, this might be worth playing for the protection effect alone. Giving every other card on your field targeting protection can help push through a plethora of effects, and can keep your smaller monsters safe in the long run from getting run over. And this even prevents your opponent from targeting their own cards, so you may get to really throw off their game plan. What's funny is that it only checks our opponent's grave for Xyz monsters when it comes to the boost, not our graveyard. We have to rely solely on whatever we put onto the field. But considering a single rank 4 gives us 2000 attack, and the boundless utility of certain Xyz monsters, I think it's safe to say we'll run into an opponent using some of those every once in a while. And then you just get to steal cards. Like, that's obscene. It's funny that the resilience of the Utopic Future monster only manifests here when you want to do war crimes, but hey, you take what you can get. The steal is permanent, by the way. It doesn't negate, and it triggers off the slightest thing happening. So any deck that is competent at making multiple Xyz monsters, not just Onomots, now have access to a really scary boss monster. Yeah, I don't think anyone's gonna give Yuma any guff for a while after this display. This card even made his dorky hair look cool. How did they manage that? Gaga Girl is a rank 4 Dark Spellcaster Xyz monster with 1500 attack and 1800 defense, requiring 2 level 4 monsters as material. If this card has a Zubaba, Gagaga, Go, or Dodo card as material, you can detach one material from this card to add a Gagaga, Onomot, or Xyz card from your deck to your hand. And a Utopic Future Xyz monster that has this card as material gains this effect. If this card is Xyz summoned, this card can make a second attack during each battle phase this turn. This is going to be a frequent stop on your Xyz summoning train, especially with the initial 4 we talked about. Being able to add from the Onomot and Xyz card pool means that it has some severe range, grabbing some truly unreal cards, including the next 2 we'll be talking about. And by doing so, you'll enable the search of what you detached, so not only are we in Value Town, this can give a devastating double attack to our Utopic Futures, no matter which one we go into. Even Utopic Draco Future, because Gaga Girl doesn't give its effect to an Xyz monster that uses it as material, they give it to Utopic Futures that have it as material, which is kinda wild. Honestly, at this point, I'm just impressed they have that many Gauze to throw around. Gagaga Utopic Tactics is a continuous spell card that makes it so Utopia and Utopic Xyz monsters you control whose original attribute is light can be destroyed by card effects. Also, your opponent can't target them with card effects. You can declare a level from 1 to 12, then target 2 face-up monsters you control, including a Gagaga monster, and they become that level. And if you Xyz summon a Utopia or Utopic Xyz monster whose original attribute is light, you can target one card your opponent controls and destroy it. Xyz Change Tactics was the cornerstone card of Utopia spam for its deep draw capabilities, but this card blows it out of the water by doing something without having to be a huge life point sink. And it is a massively powerful combo when combined with Utopic Future Zexal. This card keeps that one from being targeted, while UFZ also provides protection back. This forms a vacuum seal of protection that wards off targeting and gives you some extra removal as you deploy more of your boss monsters. Now, nothing stopping you from playing both this and Xyz Change Tactics, letting you reap all the benefits, though if you play too many of them, you're bound to turn this into a tactics game, and Yu-Gi-Oh! Already has enough of those spin-offs. Unbreakable Xyz Barrier is a counter trap card that you can activate when a spell card, trap card, or monster effect is activated while you control an Xyz monster. Negate the activation, then you can detach 2 material from any number of monsters you control, then destroy a card on the field. You can banish this card from your grave, then target an Xyz monster you control to attach a Light Utopia or Utopic Xyz monster from your grave to it. So we have a searchable counter trap that's an Omni Negate that also destroys if you have the material necessary to trigger that part, all the while being a stealth way to re-enable your Utopia monster effects. There's clearly a bias towards the Utopic side here, but this can work in any Xyz deck, and that's more than a little terrifying. They may not be as easy to use as Links, but before they showed up, just about everyone had a plan to utilize the Xyz toolbox, and cards like this might go some ways to facilitating that once again. But I think the whole unbreakable thing is a bit much. With the wings folded over like that, the first thing you're going to have to worry about is your posture, because that card is so breakable. Part 24, Vanquish Soul. Folks, when the designers of this game cook, it tastes like nothing else. Some decks are your regular, staple comfort foods. They put monsters on board, they give you some negates, maybe some draws, and some big punchies. You know, the usual Yu-Gi-Oh! Good stuff pile. But sometimes they make cards work like they're a fighting game cabinet, and the cards in your hand are simultaneously button inputs and your assist fighters. And people love their assist fighters. And so, to feed the deep hunger for a wider roster, we've got a few new players to add to the collection. Let's boot up Vanquish Soul Turbo EX and see what this update has in store for us. Vanquish Soul Holly Sue is a level 5 Earth Psychic monster with 500 attack and 2200 defense. During the main phase, as a quick effect, you can reveal another Vanquish Soul monster in your hand to special summon this card from your hand. And also, as a quick effect, you can activate one of these effects by revealing any number of monsters in your hand with the listed attributes. If you reveal Earth and Dark, you take control of one monster your opponent controls with the lowest attack, your choice if tied, until the end phase. If you reveal Fire and Dark, special summon a non-psychic Vanquish Soul monster from your deck. You can only use each effect of this card once per turn, and you can't activate more than one of them on the same chain. Holly Sue continues to innovate on our summoning techniques by being the fastest one we have. Xiao Long was a huge deal because you could just summon it out of your hand after activating another Vanquish Soul effect, but that still required you to have something on board to activate. Holly Sue just wants you to have another Vanquish Soul in hand, and because it's a quick effect, you can drop this onto the board as early as turn 0, which then has a knock-on effect to all of your other big Vanquish Soul monsters. This can now also trigger a Xiao Long summon, as well as enabling tag-ins from Caesar Valius, or more importantly, Heavy Borger. That way you can get the draw engine started. It's a stupendous amount of utility right out of the gate, which is good because the other effects are going to need more of a setup. Normally, our Vanquish Souls have a 1-button and a 2-button combo, but Holly is all 2 buttons, so the contents of your hand will have to be a bit more complex to use her techs. That being said, both of them are unreal, being a quick effect summon from deck or a quick monster steal for the turn. Now granted, it only takes the lowest attack of monsters that they have, but if a combo line doesn't put multiple monsters on their board, then the lowest attack is also their only attack, and that can mess up a lot of sequencing. Overall, this is a fantastic addition to the theme, both in terms of mechanics and aesthetics. Combine the priest getup with the skeletal staff, and you've got yourself a regular Skullgirl on your hands. Vanquish Soul Rocks is a rank 4 Dark Pyro Xyz monster with 2000 attack and 2500 defense, requiring 2 or more level 4 Vanquish Soul monsters as material. Once per turn, if a Vanquish Soul monster battled this turn, you can also Xyz summon copies of this card by using a Vanquish Soul monster or Rock of the Vanquisher that you control, transferring its material to this card. And it gains the following effects based on the attributes of its attached materials. If it has a Dark monster, all monsters your opponent controls lose 800 attack. If it has a Fire monster, Vanquish Soul monsters you control gain 1000 attack. And if it has an Earth monster, you can detach a material from this card to destroy one card your opponent controls. Oh yeah, now this is a bonus character if I've ever seen one, and it rules. Letting you convert any of your Vanquish Souls into a body with a utility effect that'll help you on board is amazing. And depending on the monster, you're either debuffing your opponent's field, buffing your own, or you get to start picking off your opponent's cards. In fact, it's the Earth option I'm most jazzed about because you can pop a card, then bounce rocks back into your extra monster deck with your in-hand summoners, Borger and Caesar. Now the problem is, because rocks didn't go to the hand, you don't get to summon from the hand, but if you can get away with not doing that, it's a great way to get rocks back into the extra so you can deploy them again on a future turn. Alternatively, you can just turn them back into Rock of the Vanquisher and just scoop it out from the graveyard using its effect, whatever floats your boat. And if you actually end up hard making it using your group of level 4 Vanquish Souls, your opponent is in for a treat. I mean, has any fighting game with assist characters fusion with the main character? We might be seeing the next wave of innovation in the space. Vanquish Soul Start is a field spell card that lets you target a Vanquish Soul monster you control to add a Vanquish Soul monster with a different attribute from your deck to your hand. If any number of Vanquish Soul monsters you control would be destroyed by a battle or card effect, you can reveal a Vanquish Soul monster in your hand instead. And during your end phase, if you control 2 or more Vanquish Soul monsters, you can set a Vanquish Soul trap card from your deck. Oh man, that was my favorite joke for the whole theme. I loved saying that Rock of the Vanquishers was like the field spell of the theme. I mean, forget the Link one that searches the field spell, this is the Link one that is the field spell. I mean, it looked like a landscape, it had a good beneficial effect, it was perfect! Now I've got to trash that for, what, a cluttered map screen? Well, at least mechanically, this card is stellar. Having to pick a different attribute is a cool way to make it so it's like 2 people picking different characters, and the protection effect leans into the current fighting game gimmick, either being a block command or some kind of assist guard. The last one I'm not too confident in assigning a reference to, but it is great. Our trap cards are solid, but they can be a pain in the wrong hand. Now you can just run singleton copies and use them when the need arises. This is a field spell that adds a truckload of utility to the theme, and it does a fantastic job of getting ready for the next battle! And that does it. All the new cards coming out of Duelist Advance and Monster Mayhem. I've gotta say, this was a pretty fantastic batch. None of these felt like throwaway additions, they all felt like real, impactful extensions to their previous themes. And I'm stoked to see if we'll see a change in the format that lets these new cards shine. Are there any from these releases that you're excited for? And which one's your favorite? Let me know in the comments, and if you haven't already, please be sure to like the video if you liked it, subscribe so you don't miss an episode, be sure to check out one of my videos in the sidebar to help me show up on your homepage, and be sure to share this video with somebody you know who loves Yu-Gi-Oh! It really does a lot to help me out. Today's episode is brought to you by Dragon Shield. Get the sleeves as strong as dragon scales and save 5% on your order by using the coupon code GoldenNova at checkout while helping out the channel. It was also brought to you by my lovely patrons, including this month's illustrious Quasar Commander, Upstairs Media, Nebula Navigators, 3rd Dynasty, 50 Gigabytes, Ada Basilisk, Adam Zajdel, Ancient Wizard, Andrew Newman, Battle Axe, Kane Senpai, Chibi Gohan, Christopher Fuss, Clockswork, Comrade Copperbottom, Eric, Frankie, Garland Chaos, Green Knight, Great Big Pillock, Groog, Hair Bear, Harry the Ominous Benefactor, Iron Zero, Iskander 711, Carp, Marion James E. Picata, Meme King, Millennia Asta, Muse Clark, Neon Yaminair, Orozco 09096, Panther J, Pat Boos, Rebel King Lucifer, Red Eyes Jackalow, RJ the Jank Monarch, Sonic 21 Blast, the Critic of Innocence, Thievery Coast and the Wizard Moose, Cosmic Crusaders Ally Vatnia, Animasta, Anthrak, a Random Pup, Blitzwolf, Chaz Ghost, Christopher Fuss, again, Chris B, Cool Trainer Dark, Dr. Entity RIP, EB Channel, Eki Bullock, Eva Padilla, Herbal D, Inblink, Julian Marquez, Kale the Dragon, Lobomaru02, Manga Pages, Natiel Lee Alexander, Nitromo, Not Al Gore, Obsidian, Pombo, Rhyme Kairos, Shizuka Nijimura, Simic Toadstool, Sir Knight JCB, Sphilia, Stephen Huntsman, Stephen Williamson, The Legendary Raven, The Phantom Knights of Shitted Pants, The Queen of Time, The Gene, Tiger X2476, Tristan O'Meara and Zaldrucka, as well as the lovely Starlight Explorers you see on screen now. If you'd like to help me in my journey to cover all of Yu-Gi-Oh's archetypes, get my videos early, be a part of these credits and other awesome perks, it would mean the world to me if you would check out the link to my Patreon in the description or consider joining as a YouTube member. And if you'd like to check up on the themes that got support in this video, check out this playlist that has all the episodes right here. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.